Making money on the internet has completely changed my life. I don't know how to say this without sounding guru-y, but that's just the way that it is. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to tell you my story and how things have changed since I've been able to make money on the internet mobily. If you haven't seen this face before, my name is Chris. I've grown my own online coaching businesses teaching musicians to over 7 figures, so I try and help people do similar things. If we back up to when I was a little tyke, I was basically a person who was very bad at school. And when I say very bad at school, I mean I was never there, and I got straight Fs, and I dropped out, and I got arrested for stealing music equipment from my high school when I was a sophomore. I don't feel like I was one of those people who was cut out to be successful later in life. Everybody has a different definition of what that means, but I feel like I'm doing fairly well for where I came from. Like I said, I dropped out of high school. I finished high school later in a college program, but I was just never good at it. I felt like I was never really that dumb, but I just didn't want to do the things that I was being taught. My assumption was after high school, I needed to get into college just like everybody else, but I honestly did not know what I wanted to do. So I was working at Subway for the longest time. I was slinging mad sandwiches. I worked there for way longer than I'm proud of. I think I worked there for like 6 years, if not more. At one point, I was like, well, maybe it's time to do something else besides making sandwiches since I'm a grown-ass person now. I, in the distance, at some point heard that pharmacy technician was a good job. So I went straight to a pharmacy, I went to Rite Aid, and I applied for a cashier position because I wasn't certified to be a technician yet, but I knew that was the first stepping stone to getting into that position. I did my interview, I followed up time and time again. I think that's how I got a lot of my jobs, was I just kept pestering the boss until they gave it to me. But I worked as a cashier, and every position that I've kind of graduated in, I have kind of just proven that I was capable. It's not that I was necessarily the best candidate for that position, but I always tried to get my foot in the door and improved myself from there. So after working as a cashier for a little bit, I got promoted to being a pharmacy technician even before I got certified. It came down to the wire where my temporary license was gonna expire and I had to take the test and get certified, otherwise I'd get demoted again. So last minute I took that test. I did fail it once, and then I went back and then I did it again and I passed it. As I was working in pharmacy, I kept hearing like the pinnacle of pharmacy technician jobs, the highest paying place was Kaiser Permanente, so working in the hospital. I met a pharmacist that was also working at Rite Aid and also worked at Kaiser, so she gave me this in to be like, hey, this is the boss's number, why don't you give him a call? So there's retail pharmacy and then there's inpatient hospital pharmacy. I had zero experience inpatient, and they only really hired people that had that experience. But again, I called the boss, called him over and over and over and over and over and over until I finally got an interview. And I got an interview, I went in, I nailed it, I feel like, even though I had no experience. And from there, I kept following up with him, call him. He didn't even really have a position for me at this point. But after months of calling him constantly, he gave me an on-call position. On-call meaning that they would call me whenever they needed me. I never had any guaranteed hours or guaranteed money. From there, I got my foot in the door. Again, I proved myself and I kept working until I was part-time. When I was part-time, I kept working until I was full-time. Then I had the full-time positions for a while. This is where I started really diving into entrepreneurship and really wanting to make some kind of business for myself. I'm a music producer, so I wanted nothing more than to make music my career in some degree. So I started selling beats, I started producing for other artists, and I started this side project on top of my job until I was working that well enough to where like I was making good money with that. And then I learned about this area of education online. Selling courses, selling coaching, all this good stuff. You hear it all the time. You probably think it's a scam because whatever, we're not gonna dive into that. But digital marketing, education, coaching was the area I started getting into. I then hired a coach for myself. Up until this point, for the most part, everything was DIY. I tried to learn myself. I start something, I'd fall on my face, I'd start something else, fall on my face, and I'd constantly give up and go in these cycles where I wasn't making true money to where I could really uproot everything and just quit my job. So I booked a call with this coach that I wanted to work with. I was like all high and mighty. I was like, dude, I got $1,000 saved up. I am balling. I'm ready to drop this $1,000 so that I can learn from this guy to make more money. I got on the call with them. Call went great. I was super bought in, super like excited about this. At the time where they dropped the price, they were like, it's 15K, but if you do it today on the phone, it's 10K. And my jaw dropped. I was like, that's 10 times more than I thought I was going to be paying. And that's 10 times more than I have in my bank account right now. All I know was that was the one pivotal decision that changed my entire life. I wanted nothing more than to just hang up on these people and be like, oh, my phone got disconnected, and just not pay that and continue with my life. But in the back of my head, I knew that if I didn't do this, I would be in the same job until I was 65. I was too old to enjoy my life. I'd have to live scarcely off my retirement, and that was just way more costly to me than $10,000. Even as a broke nerd, I had this realization. So they walked me through it. I ended up getting a loan. I borrowed money from people. I took out money from my savings, and I just said yes. Up until this point, this was the biggest investment I had ever made in myself. But I don't know where to begin to tell you that if I didn't make that decision, and I decided to make the decision most people make, which say it's too expensive, I can't afford it, I would not be here today talking to you, having time to make these videos. I would be at a 9-to-5 working my ass off until I was 65. So that one pivotal decision changed my entire life. That's how much one decision can really change your life. And the decision I made was counterintuitive to everything that I knew up until that point. Save money. Don't spend your money. Don't buy things on the internet. Things like that, right? But the fact that I spent so much money meant that I had so much skin in this game. I was like, there is not one single thing that he's gonna tell me to do that I will refuse. I will do every single thing this person tells me to do. And he told me to do a lot of uncomfortable things that I did not want to do. It was very hard. There was times where I fell on my face and I just felt like the whole world was collapsing in on me, but I just kept getting up and I kept doing it, I kept doing it, I kept doing it. From there, I went from a full-time position down to a part-time position, then back down to on-call, and then eventually quit my job 5 months after I made that investment. My first coaching business was teaching music producers how to produce music, but also kind of how to sell their beats and the marketing, stuff like that. My first year in that business, I did close to $500,000. That's way more than the pharmacist I was working for. From there, year after year, it just grew, and I continued to take the money and I continued to invest in myself and learn more and more and more and more. I've learned so many skill sets in the last few years that have changed everything for me. And the best thing about that investment is somebody could come in and steal all the money from my bank account right now and steal everything from my pockets, but I would still have those skill sets to rebuild. I don't know if you understand how glorifying that feeling is, when you know that if you lose everything, you're still that type of person that can take everything what you have and still rebuild it from the ground up. That means that I can never go broke again. Since I've been in a position where I just make money on the internet and wherever I'm at, it's been so glorifying. I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. I have all this time. I bought my life back. If you think about how much a full-time employee works, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. We spend 8 hours a day sleeping, 8 hours a day at work, and then the remaining energy that we have for that 8 hours left is how much life we have. Like, how sad is that concept to you? That 2/3 is already taken up by sleep and work, and the last 8 hours of your day, you're living with depleted energy because of working for somebody else. Look, I wasn't supposed to be successful. I wasn't gonna go to school to be a doctor. I wasn't gonna be a lawyer or anything like that. It wasn't paved for me to be successful, but I found a way to do it. This is an amazing awakening for all my bad students and all my high school dropouts out there. Like, there's a way to be able to do it. And there's a way to be able to fly past everybody who went to college. But it does take some really difficult decisions that most people are not willing to make and cannot stomach. I'm not gonna lie and say that it was easy, but in 3 years, I progressed so much as a human being and I progressed so much financially in that time. And I only have the people, mentors, and people that I've learned from to thank. I am a completely different human being today. I can go wherever I want. As soon as my daughter was like, I want to go to Japan, we booked flights that second, and now we're going in a couple months. And I'm still gonna work there. I'm still gonna make money. I still have a team to run. I promise, if you're in a position right now where you just hate your job and you feel like there's more to it than just this, you can do it, but it is going to be hard, and it's going to take making decisions that most people aren't willing to make, and it may be against everything that you believe. But everything you believe and all the actions you've taken up until this point has led you to the position you are in today. And if you look at your position today and that's not where you want to be, something has to change. And success leaves clues, they always say. All we have to do is mimic the people that are living the lives that we want to live, and not taking advice from the people who have lives that we don't want to live. All I want this video to do is change one person's life. if you work in a 9-to-5, you have some sort of similar situation that I did, just know that it is very, very possible. I am no more than just an ordinary guy. And now I get to look forward to improving and progressing each and every single day. And there's no better feeling. If this changed your perspective at all, or if you enjoyed this kind of content, subscribe to my channel. I share a lot of business information and things like this, and I'll see you in the next video.